Yeah, so the point is raised about procrastination. So all of us understand that's another element of human psychology we all understand. Maybe you want to go, but the clinic's always there. It's always a couple kilometers away. The test result's always going to be there, so you delay, and then at some point you forget to go. So there's a lot of different reasons why people may do this. And Rebecca Thornton's question was, could a cash incentive change this? And in particular, we'll talk about, could an absolutely tiny cash incentive change it? And that's going to be the question that she asked. And this gets back to the question, she didn't really know how much cash was needed or what incentive was needed to change behavior. The question before was asking, what kind of incentive is needed to change sexual behavior? And I know with the Vulcan, they didn't know. And I know Rebecca didn't really know in her study. So she's also going to have a variety of different levels to try to figure out at what point does this incentive start to bite. So this is the setup. She worked in 120 villages in 3 different parts of Malawi, so pretty decent sample size. Nurses were going around and testing for HIV and other STIs that are relatively prevalent, like gonorrhea, as part of a voluntary counseling and testing project. At the door, when these nurses came with enumerators and said, we want to give you an STI test or an HIV test, over 90% of people said yes. Now that's actually higher than the rate we saw for the DHS survey in Kenya, which was conducted in 2003, so around the same time. So this was a population where there was even more openness to getting gay. That's a very high rate. Imagine if you came to someone's door in Berkeley. Do you think 91% of people would sort of take a half hour and give you a blood draw if you literally showed up at their door? I don't think so. That's a very high rate. So it's more representative than the Kenyan DHS. And what they find is an infection rate a little higher for females than males, the pattern you see over and over again in African data, 7% for females, 5% for males. Actually not that different than the Kenyan average that we talked about last week. It's lower than the national average. And this also makes sense because this is a rural area, and as we said before, urban areas have higher infection rates. So the Malawi patterns look a lot like the Kenyan patterns. Slightly higher infection rates for females, higher infection rates in cities and rural areas. So that's the kind of background of the study. A couple other details that are important. When there were couples that were surveyed, they were informed of their status separately. It was left to them to disclose what they wanted to disclose. There have been other studies carried out that have tried to do joint couple informing and counseling. The idea being if one partner is infected and the other one isn't, you have a moral obligation to let the other partner know if they're going to be engaging in sexual intercourse. But that's not how this study was set up. So this study was just informing people separately and asking them to inform each other. Demian DeValk, who was a co-author on the other study, has separate work on exactly this issue of understanding couple status. And there's a kind of again, this, the view all of you had, that probably men have higher infection rates than women, leads there to be a view, say, at least in the Kenyan newspapers I read, that it was so common for men to get infected and then infect their wives. But he finds very equal rates of women being infected without the husband being infected and vice versa in a lot of his African samples. So, there's probably a lot of risk for both genders if they're informed separately. Okay. Now, one last point about treatment in her study, in Rebecca's study. When individuals tested positive, and this is part of VCT, voluntary counseling, testing, but also treatment in these clinics, people who tested STI positive received treatment. So if you had gonorrhea, you received antibiotics to treat the gonorrhea. But as part of her study, which is just when ARVs were getting rolled out and they were still much more expensive, etc., they provided information on where you could get ARVs, but the study didn't fund ARV treatment. It was basically a referral to a district hospital. That's the way it was set up in her study. Okay, so one last aspect of the research design, and this is one of the neat elements of it, and this is why I wanted to, one of the other reasons I wanted to introduce this paper, then we'll get to the results. So in the first period, nurses and surveyors went around to all the households in these villages offering them tests, HIV tests, basically a blood draw that would get tested. And then, after the blood draw and all that went on, and some baseline survey data was collected, individuals were offered an incentive to go retrieve their test. So they were told, okay, I took your blood draw, it's going to be ready in 5 days at the clinic, you know where it is, 2 kilometers away, 1 kilometer away, whatever it is. If you show up, you're going to receive cash. Or some people were told they weren't going to receive anything. And she varied the incentive from 0, some people had no incentive, to 10 cents, all the way up to $3. The average daily wage in this part of Malawi is between $1 to $2. So $3 is real money. It's the equivalent of a couple days' work. And then the question is, at what point do the incentives start to bite and people change behavior? Now again, you might think no one should need to change behavior because they're going to want to get the test. This is critical health information. But previous studies have shown, and Rebecca's study shows the same thing, there was no incentive. Far fewer than 50% of people go to get their test. Let me pause for a second, see if there's questions on the design. Let me mention one other methodological point for anybody who plans to do field work, which is, I know this because Rebecca's a co-author of mine on some other work, and she's told me a lot of the kind of inner workings of this project. When she was piloting these incentives, and in the very initial parts of the study, she was keeping track of the incentives that were being offered. So there was sort of an equal probability people would be offered incentives, 10 cents, 20 cents, 30 cents, 40 cents, and she had devised a system of the equivalent of like rolling a die, like basically equivalent of coin flips, that the enumerators would carry out in the field before they got to a household to govern which incentive they would offer. So they would basically do the coin flip or multiple coin flips and determine, okay, this household's going to get a $2 incentive. So she should get equal numbers of people getting the different incentives. When she got her pilot data back for the first 100 households the different enumerators had done, the majority of them were getting the $3 incentive. And the reason why is the enumerators were sort of thinking, like, here's this household, I'm kind of taking their time, which is true, I'm bothering them. It's within my power to offer this incentive. I'm going to offer the kind of more generous incentive as a way to be nice to the respondent. But so Rebecca was checking her pilot data, found this, and had to institute these weekly checks for all the enumerators on the distribution of the incentives being offered to make sure that there wasn't that the enumerators weren't being sort of too generous with the incentive. But again, it's an issue with field randomization. So she was relying on the enumerators to do a field randomization, but the whole research design would obviously be compromised if that randomization broke down. So for whatever reason, the types of people that enumerators liked got the big incentive, and the types of people they didn't like got the small incentive. Then we're not in a randomized world anymore. It's like the cool kids are the ones that get the big incentive or something. There's a hand up. Yeah.
I remember reading the paper that the test results were delivered 2 to 4 months after the test.
Oh, I didn't know it was that big a time lapse. Was it that long? Okay.
And I wonder if that might cause. So as you mentioned, only 34% of people
right.
given 0 incentive.
Shut up. Right.
I wonder if more people might show up with the results.
I see. I had sort of not remembered it being that long a time lag. I think in general, it's going to hurt if there's a big time lag. It's sort of out of mind after a couple months. So to the extent that it's the next day, maybe it's very salient to you. I just got tested. Let me go get my result. A couple months down the road, you may forget. Now that said, we're going to see the response to the incentive. They didn't forget the incentive, even a very small incentive. So let's come back to that. But maybe that makes the incentive result that much more striking. That 10 cents can be a very salient amount of money, as we'll show in a second. Okay. So this is a nice research design. Let me tell you what's really nice about it. Regardless of whether or not the individual showed up to get their test result, the researcher knows their status, knows their HIV status. But some people, as we're going to find, who got a larger cash incentive, are going to be much more likely to know their own status, and that's governed by this randomization. The researcher knows everybody's status, but there's basically random variation in the likelihood that you know your own status. That is a really neat design. And it allows Rebecca to do things like match up HIV positive people. We know they're HIV positive based on their test results, some of whom got the 0 incentive and are unlikely to know the result, and some of whom got the $3 incentive and are very likely to know the result. And you can ask the question, does their behavior differ? And because it's randomized who got what incentive, that behavioral difference, it can be attributed to the information. Some people got the information, some people didn't. So this is a very interesting research design, actually been much copied by others sort of working in this area. And during the course of the term, at different points, I'll talk about these kinds of two-step randomizations or more complicated randomizations that people are using to make progress on different questions. Yeah?
If only like 5 or 7% of people are infected, are there ever studies or times where they don't let down people that are infected because they feel like, well, those people really need to be.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, there's an ethical issue there. The ethical issues with HIV have been really important in the public policy debate. The concern with hunting people down, the whole reason why it's voluntary to go in, is if you hunted people down who are HIV positive, then everybody in the community would know if these health workers hunt you down, you're HIV positive. And that's the whole point behind allowing people to go to the clinic when they want to. They may have another reason to go. They may be in a market area nearby. And it gives them more anonymity. So that's the rationale for this. Okay, so result number 1, as I've already hinted at, small amounts of cash were very, very effective at getting people to go get their test result. At no incentive, a third of people got their results. But even at 10 cents, that proportion doubles. 10 cents. So less than an hour's work. Months later, you go and get your test result. But with 0, you don't. So there's different interpretations of this. Let me give the most obvious economic interpretation, but then maybe you guys can think of alternative interpretations. The most, if there is some stigma to going into the clinic to get your results, which is what we were concerned about before, this suggests that 10 cents overcomes that stigma. With 10 cents, actually, I just go and get my test result. So the cost of stigma can't be that high. Are there any other interpretations? Peter?
Also excuse away a stigma. If somebody says, well, why were they like, they were giving away free money, why wouldn't I go? You go.
Exactly. So this is also paying people is also clever because not only do more people get information if you think that's the goal, but it gives you an excuse for going. Hey, they paid me. I got money. I didn't even listen when they told me my result. I didn't care. I know I'm negative. I just took the money. I mean, you could imagine that kind of scenario. So this, there's different ways of interpreting this result, and the economic interpretation may miss something, which is the point here. Yeah. That's right. So at least it may help you pay for transport to get there. One of the things I'm not emphasizing here, just to kind of move quicker, is there's another set of results Thornton has in the paper about distance. So different people lived at different distances from where the test results were offered, and she finds that not only is the monetary cost very influential, but the distance you live to the clinic is like incredibly influential. So if you live really near the site where the results were distributed, even with no incentive, you're very likely to get the result. And if you live far away, very far away, then even with the incentive, you're unlikely. Do you have a comment?
Yeah. In the developing world, I think a lot of people, there are people with jobs where they have a lot of downtime, where they're used to inefficiency, whether or not that's good, I'm not saying, but like,
I'm glad we've avoided that at Berkeley.
right.
Yeah.
My partner cut my lawn with scissors. And so once you've seen that,
I hope you paid him a lot.
yeah, maybe it's worth going to the clinic for 10 cents.
Do you have a hand up?
Yeah, the incentive might not really be the monetary part. I mean, that someone shows up at your door willing to give you money, it communicates so much importance to this after going to get it. It might be responding to that one, whether it's 10 cents or.
So so everybody, even those that got no incentive, were visited, right? So there has to be something about the visit and the monetary offer together, even if it's a very low amount. That's very salient, right? Because even the people with no incentive were visited and the blood was drawn. See what I mean? So but there's something special maybe about being visited, but also maybe there's some reciprocity. Like, okay, look, I offered you money to go. Why don't you go? And so people feel like obliged to go. Something like that. Is that what you're getting at a little bit? Or?
Or just that, I guess that there's just money involved at all. Like, well, it's something
I see what you're saying.
that people who
Interesting.
aren't and you want to take away.
That's interesting. So maybe there's something different about activities where there's money involved or not, and people view any amount of money as something valuable, right? So something that's come out in a number of the recent studies on the demand for health or health information in low-income countries is there's very often huge shifts of going from 0 to any small price for something, and this study is an example of that. So there's something special about a 0 price. This is the sort of plot of the results. On the left there you see a 0, and 34% of people got their result. When you go to 10 cents, it goes up to 65%. So there's a doubling. After that, with a greater incentive, there is an increase in retrieving the results all the way up to $3, where it's almost 90%, it's 85%. But it really flattens out at some point. The real big jump is from 0 to something, and then it does increase a bit up to about $1. After that, it's pretty flat. So it's quite striking just how steep the demand curve is in some sense from 0 to a very small amount of money. So this is a really interesting figure. You can get very high retrieval rates, paying 85% retrieval rate, paying about $1, which isn't that much money. Okay, clicker question time. This is sort of a recall question, but it just ties into some of our discussion before. Does Thornton find that HIV-positive individuals are more or less likely to go in to obtain the result of their test? We talked about the sort of psychology of it, which came up before, which is like, look, if I'm infected, forget it, I'm not going to, I don't want to know. But does it actually play out that way? Are people who are HIV-positive, because we know everybody's status, right? So conditional on your status, which we know, and conditional on the incentive given to you. If you're HIV-positive, are you more or less likely to go in? Okay, so folks, most people thought less likely, although there's quite a bit of spread. Some people thought about the same. There wouldn't be too much responsiveness. Okay, so actually HIV-positive people were a little bit less likely. That's not a huge effect. Remember, if you got an incentive, you may be 70 or 80%, have a 70 or 80% chance of getting tested. So a 5 percentage point effect isn't massive. So maybe you can say, well, it's similar, but it goes in the direction of saying those who are positive are less likely to get tested. So you could say kind of, it's a weak effect. It's not a massive effect. It isn't like if you're infected, no matter what incentive you give me, I'm not going to go. Or I'm half as likely to go. You're slightly less likely to go. And the other question you can ask yourself is, we don't know the infection status of those people who at the door refuse the test. But this kind of result probably hints at the fact that those folks are a little more likely to be infected, probably, because they didn't even want to get tested to start with. So probably prevalence is a little higher than Rebecca found among those who complied with the request to get tested. Now, one thing that is interesting is she asked some questions in the baseline survey regarding people's beliefs about their own infection likelihood. She tried to elicit this. Are you very likely, unlikely, etc.? That belief question doesn't correlate with retrieving your test. Your actual status does. So it makes you it raises some questions about the reliability of some of these self-reported perceptions. Maybe people don't want to admit what they really think about their infection risk. Okay, result number 2. And this is a result that she highlights a lot in her paper, which is those who find out they're HIV positive seem to be more willing to pay for safe sex. And how does she do this? How does she make this claim? At the end of the study, she offers people condoms. The enumerators come back and offer people condoms and say, here are condoms. There's a certain price for these condoms. It's a pretty good price. How many are you going to buy? How many are you willing to buy? And the idea there is, if you find out you're HIV positive, and that makes you more willing to, or more likely to engage in safe sex, you may be more likely to purchase those condoms. If, on the other hand, finding out you're HIV positive has the opposite effect, you'd be less likely to buy condoms. So what she finds out is those who find out they're HIV positive are more likely to purchase condoms than those who are HIV positive but didn't get their test result, where she's relying on the randomization of the incentive to make that point. Yeah.
The enumerators know who's HIV positive as they're selling condoms?
The enumerators did not know.
And do the people know that the enumerators don't know?
The people in this study were always informed their results were confidential. What they actually thought the enumerators knew is hard to say, in the sense that even if they're told it was confidential, they might have thought or fear that the enumerators knew their status. And the logic behind that, if I'm kind of picking up on your point, would be if I think the enumerator knows that I know I'm HIV positive, I feel some obligation to buy the condoms because that's the right thing to do. Okay, so Rebecca's defense is to say everybody was informed a million times in consent statements. This is confidential. No one knows your status. The enumerators don't know your status. It's just between you and the nurse and all this kind of stuff. But if there are any doubts in the respondent's mind, maybe it would lead them towards this more socially desirable behavior. Yeah.
I think there's always going to be problems with readout like this, right? Because HIV positive people are different HIV.
Well, this is all among HIV positive people. So the question is, among HIV positive people who got no incentive versus HIV positive people, say, who got the $3 incentive, do you see differences in their condom purchasing behavior? So that's how she gets around the decision. That's why it's so important that she knows people's actual status, even if they don't know it themselves. What do people think of this? Is this a good measure? One very clear issue was just raised about people trying to act in a socially desirable way. What other issues would you have?
I mean, she models the demand for safe sex. She uses the proxy of condom purchase
Yeah.
to model the demand for safe sex. But I feel like the demand for safe sex can be modeled another way, just pure abstinence.
Yeah.
Can be another way.
Yeah.
I feel like she over-isolates condoms as the money only control the demand for safe sex.
Roxanne?
I was going to say the same thing. The education in Kenya is how they talk about abstinence. I figured
Yeah.
that condom sales could actually fall. People learn their different.
Right. So that's right. So abstinence wouldn't lead to more condom purchase, or you could engage in safer sex by changing partner choice, remaining faithful to one partner, and maybe condom use is less relevant in the context of a stable monogamous relationship, etc. Lauren?
I would say this could potentially understate how likely people are my condoms. If I honestly believe you the enumerator that you might be HIV positive, you might not want to buy
I see.
condoms from them. In fact, even if today I'm HIV positive, but this is stigma, you might not want to buy condoms just because the effect.
So that's really interesting, which is there are these plausible social desirability effects here when we're thinking about the data collection and the experiment that go in different directions. There's the one saying condom use is the right thing. Okay, I'm going to be more likely to buy condoms. The other one is saying, wait, I'm kind of admitting maybe I'm dangerous to other people, or I could infect other people if I buy condoms. And the abstinence issue completely goes in the other direction. So that makes this measure much harder to interpret. Yeah.
From what I remember, they were given like a incentive, right? And from that incentive, they purchased.
Right.
So I feel like
That's right. So just explain that before you continue with your point. She basically effectively gave people cash and said, you want to use this cash to buy condoms because she didn't want people who were just poor or credit constrained or something not to be able to buy the condoms. So she's like, here's some cash. You want some condoms? That's kind of how it works. Yeah. 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 Uh-huh. Yep. Okay, so I think there's a lot of room. Do you have a further follow-up on that?
Quick question. Purchase of condoms, that's self-reported number.
No, that's what the enumerator observes they do at that moment. Are you going to, this is purchase of condoms from the enumerator. And that part of the reason this paper got in a very good journal, the American Economic Review, and part of it is even though we have doubts about this measure, she's doing something very neat, which is she's giving people a real choice on the spot and seeing how they use real money. So she's giving them real money and it's like, hey, do you want to use this money for something? And so, right down, there's this kind of distrust in economics, maybe too much of a distrust for self-reports, and there's more confidence in what we call revealed preference actions. So revealed preference is to say, I'm actually observing what you do. And so instead of Rebecca just relying on people's self-reported condom purchase or self-reported risky sex, she's like, here, want to buy condoms right now. Are you going to do it? And you observe an actual choice. I think there were a couple of interesting methodological aspects of this study. Yeah.
Saying is that 2 months later,
Yeah.
or is that still buying condoms just from the enumerators?
Her measure that she focuses on is like the enumerator gives you money and you decide whether to buy condoms. She has other self-reported sexual behavior where she finds no impact. So other self-reported risky sexual behaviors don't change, but the condom purchase changes.
Purchasing condoms there does not mean it's you can take a condom or purchase a condom and never use it.
For sure.